A very good evening and welcome to The Big Picture, where we take a closer look at one of the top stories of the day. And today, we're discussing black money. The government has collected over 4,100 crore rupees during the 90-day black money disclosure compliance window. This amount is higher than the previously announced amount of 3,770 crores. The one-time 90-day compliance window provided an opportunity for foreign assets holders to declare their assets, pay a penalty and escape stringent provisions of the new black money law. But how has the government fared with this declaration of over 4,000 crores? Well, to help us dig deeper, we have on panel this evening, we've got Ajay, who's the former secretary at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. We've got senior journalist Priya with us here. And we also have Professor Arun Kumar from the CESP at JNU as well. In fact, if I could start with you, sir, like I pointed out, this amount, the task force of the BJP workers, at least till about a year back, were touting this amount to be about 11 to 20 lakh crores. But now we see this amount. What do you think? How much has the government achieved?
Collection has been very small. I would concede that. At 4,000 crores, I think it's a minuscule portion of what was estimated to be outside. If for a moment we even forget what the BJP leaders during the election rhetoric or as an election rhetoric were saying, 15 lakh rupees per head per Indian to money outside, which per family, per household. You're right. If you translate that into 125 crore people, a family of 5, the estimate should have been easily that outside India, we have roughly 6 to 7 lakh crore rupees lying outside. So if you compare that with this, it's below 0.5% of the money. But apart from that, that could be what one calls, what Mr. Amit Shah called jumla or idiom, election idiom. We forget that. The estimates have been once in 2012 by CBI that there is an amount of $500 billion outside. Estimate by the Global Financial Integrity Institute, the US, 440 billion. So as against it, what we've got is about 0.6 billion. So I would say is extremely small. And to that extent, we need to reflect on whether the amnesty scheme which we announced, did it have any loopholes? And when I talk about loopholes, was the tax rate, including penalties, of 60% too high? Was the window too small? Or the exemptions which were provided from prosecution under Income Tax Act, under FEMA, company affairs, was it adequate? Or people still thought that there are risks, criminal risks, etc., they are still going to be exposed to. So all those kind of things, I'm sure the government will have a look at it now that this scheme hasn't fetched the kind of money which it was expected to.
All right. In fact, we are now being joined by former additional Solicitor General of India, Vikas Singh as well, also joining us from the capital. So we are talking about the fact that, the amount that the government is now quoting at 4,000 plus crores, marginally low to what it was hoping to achieve from this, 90-day compliance window. What, according to you, went wrong? Or if at all it went wrong, according to you?
Well, according to me, this piece of legislation which was brought in was not meant for black money at all. It was actually meant for only the income earned by a person abroad which was sought to be taxed. So it was not, if you ask me, if you wanted to really bring in the black money, then you should have brought in a very different legislation. A legislation, something like you have the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, where, if you are alleged of committing a scheduled offence, then every property that you hold is liable for forfeiture if you do not explain as to what is the source of that money or the legitimate means that it was acquired from. Now, as far as black money abroad is concerned, you will have to bring in a law, and the government is not actually serious in bringing that kind of a law, because now they have the majority in the parliament. They should bring in a law which says that any money held by any Indian abroad is to be deemed to be forfeited to the state unless that person is able to show the means of acquiring that money and the banking channel, etc., through which that money has gone abroad. If the person is able to establish that, then that will be his legitimate money abroad. If he is not able to establish that, then that money will be forfeited to the state, and the state, by that law, will have the right to move that country and say that this money, this person has not been able to establish, and accordingly this money belongs to the state and accordingly should be transferred to the state. Now, unless you bring in a bold law of that kind, you are actually not intending to bring back the black money. I would feel that this government will not be wanting to do, or
Yes, please go ahead.
every political party is alleged to have money stashed abroad, or rather their members. So for all political parties, this will always be a thorn, in their this thing to bring in a law like this, because it is going to affect them also. So according to me, this is something, unless if you bring in a bold piece of legislation of that kind, you are not serious in bringing back the money. So that is why this was not if you analyze the statute which was framed, under which this money was supposed to be brought back, you will realize that this is not a black money at all. This law has nothing to do with black money.
All right.
This law is only with regard to the earnings abroad which you want to pay tax and legitimize.
Professor Kumar, do you agree with that? That there were loopholes from the very beginning. From the very beginning, those threats were quite empty as far as Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's threats were concerned. That is one of the concerns that a lot of people are also voicing.
There are several things that we need to be clear about. One is that you may have very stringent provisions, but unless you catch people, you cannot implement those provisions, So there's no provision in the bill as to how you'll find out who has money abroad. Let me explain when the money is taken abroad, and also let me add that of the black income generated in India, only 10% goes abroad, 90% remains here. So we're talking only about the 10% that's going abroad. Now, when the money goes abroad, very few people keep the money in their own names, and they are the ones who are threatened by this new bill because their names could be discovered. By and large, when the money is taken out, it's taken out through a process called layering, where there are 91 tax havens. I have a list of that. So you take money out through 5 or 6 tax havens, through shell companies, and then park it in, say, Switzerland or in Cayman Island or in Jersey Island, etc. So if you ask the Swiss government, they will say Arun Kumar has no account because Arun Kumar has moved his money from, say, Jersey Island, from a shell company called Crocodile into Switzerland. And Jersey Island belongs to the British. So they'll say it's British money, it's not Indian money. So in other words, tracking the money abroad is very difficult. And therefore, we've had double taxation avoidance agreements for the last 25 years. And not one name has come under that, okay? And it cannot come. Because how do you know whose money is where, what layering process it went out through?
Yes.
Similarly, tax information exchange also cannot get you names because that is only about where people have declared their income. If they've not declared their income, then it's not possible. The manner in which the names have come out in the last few years, since 2007, is where data has been stolen from foreign banks and that data has been made available, like in the LGT bank case and in the HSBC bank case. And there, the government's intention was very clear. Government did not take the LGT bank disk unless Supreme Court said that you have to take it. Similarly, for HSBC, which was stolen in 2008, the government did not take the data till 2011. Even then, they got only 625 names. And Mr. Faviani of France, who had stolen the data, he kept saying that, this is only 1% of the total names that are out. And the government did not do anything further. So it was the ICIJ journalists who got the remaining 500 names, and now that list has become 1125.
Yes.
Similarly, WikiLeaks has been saying that they have the data of all Swiss banks, but Government of India has not gone to WikiLeaks to find out what the data is. In other words, the intention of the government has not been there to actually take care of this problem. Similarly, HSBC Bank and other private banks and multinational banks, they have been known to be operating like Hawala operators, and this has become clear in the HSBC case. But government has not moved against the private and the multinational banks in this case. So there are many things that the government could have done, has not done, and this bill does not tackle the real problem of how do you track the people so that you can implement the stringent provisions.
Mr. Dash, another aspect that we were of course talking about earlier is the fact that the money itself, the amount that they were hoping to get from this compliance window, hoping to get from this entire bill, that in itself was an inflated figure. That's something.
In fact, no figure means I'm afraid I tend to believe that, you know, the public discourse has been all hype and Jumla as Mr. Dua suggested just now. Yeah.
Amit Shah said.
And, you know, the BJP president has said so. But you see, there are no firm estimate of even the 500 billion that has been estimated. Certain methodology have been applied and certain, you know, those are all also guesstimate. See, the problem of actually how much money is stashed abroad. At one point of time, maybe money went abroad. There was large-scale capital flight of capital. But what has happened in the last 20 years or 25 years since liberalization in this country and economic reforms and integration with the global economy, the impact of that has not been studied. How much of money has come back, you know, and has been invested in the Indian economy, you know, whether through the portfolio investment route of Mauritius or even FDI for that matter. You know, it could be our, you know, the round tripping kind of investment that has taken place. We do not know, number one. Number two, also we know that the incentive of sending back money, sending abroad, money abroad, the economic incentive has definitely gone down over a period of time because, you know, now the whole world, if over the last 20 years, the whole world is tending to invest in India because capital gets you better return in India than in any other part of the world. It would be stupid for somebody for economic reason to take out the money from here, particularly to keep it idle in Swiss bank or any such lockers where it will earn you nothing. After all, money has no color. You know, it might have been generated as black money, but once money is money, then it ceases to be, you know, it's quite fungible. So in that sense, there is very little economic incentive, I would say. Things like, but, you know, that is not to say that a black money economy has totally disappeared. We are still a cash economy, largely in India.
Yes.
There are sectors, we all know real estate, for instance, you know, even certain sectors like filmmaking, Bollywood, for instance, has always been talked about as one sector where a lot of black money gets in. There is, and we know of political corruption, we know of bureaucratic corruption, of large corruption deals that happens, those are generated. We know of election funding.
Yes.
So there are still black money which could be generated. There is still incentive in these areas and there is compulsion in these areas other than what we would purely call blood money, which is proceeds of you know, crimes such as smuggling or gun running or drug trafficking,
murder.
Those kind of murder, you know, those kind of things where the money would be, you know, you would still take it away through Hawala route and bring it back, you know, whether election funding or those kind of things, where there is a compulsion of doing it. Because as I told you, economic incentive of doing it is with the exchange rate getting market determined, you know, the rate of rupee getting market determined and staying relatively stable. Even the exchange rate benefit you do not get if you take away money and stash
make an
abroad in
observation
dollars.
to what Mr. Das was saying? I think high taxation rates continue to be a disincentive to payment of full taxes.
That's what I'm saying.
If I'm just saying,
when you had marginal rate of taxation at 95%,
maximum amount of
95% is 71,
when you have
now down to 30%.
maximum amount of
So
black
that's
money
actually
was
not the thing.
generated.
But you see, the real reason
Yeah.
why black money
So
moves
at
abroad
30%,
is because of
actually
large amount of
India has
illegality.
one of the lowest
You see,
tax
no,
rates
so
in
not.
illegality is huge. You see,
Yes.
for instance, whether it's, you know, drugs, you know, not just narcotic drugs, but, you know, fake drugs,
Right.
food. There's, you know, not only in, say, real estate and in entertainment, but in businesses, you know, there's vast amount of illegality. So our estimate is currently 56% of GDP is generated as black. That amounts to about 70 lakh crores. Out of that, only 10% goes abroad. The remaining remains in India. So even 7 lakh crores going abroad is very high.
Yes.
Our estimate is 30% is round trip back, 70% remains outside. See, look, even national income is an estimate. So everything is an estimate, okay? So it's not just only that flight of capital is estimate
Yes.
or that black economy is estimate. Even national income is an estimate.
Yes.
Some estimates may be more accurate than others, but everything is an estimate in all these kind of things. The second point is that when the money goes abroad, right, not only is it round trip, but a part of it is consumed. You know, you have education, you have health, you buy diamonds, you buy gold, etc. Then another part is invested. So what is liquid which can be brought back? Maybe only $200 to $300 billion out of the $2 to $3 trillion, which is the opportunity cost of capital that has gone abroad. So we're not talking about $2 to $3 trillion, but $2 to $300 billion will still be parked outside in financial assets, which the government can try and hope to get back. But how can it get it back? Because it doesn't know whose account it is in and where it is. Now the US has shown a way.
But we still do not have an officially accepted.
No,
I
that's
don't
different.
estimate-
But
look,
experts have estimated. Experts have estimated,
Yes.
right? I mean,
But you know,
Yeah, Mr.
nothing,
Dua, yes.
nothing
Vikas, the
that we have
question is-
officially accepted. Expert,
it is
could
extremely
be even
difficult.
Ramdev-
official estimates may be incorrect also.
Let's put it this way.
Let's
Swami
make Mr.
Ramdev's
Dua.
estimate
Yes.
of 40 lakh.
Well, that's not
No,
official.
but he has no
Could be
methodology.
as good as your
no,
estimate.
Exactly.
that's
So,
not true.
because
There's
as
no
long
method.
as you
but,
do
but
not have-
GFI has given a
Yes, I was
methodology.
talking about the GFI, which is
Rishi and Boyce has given a
$440 billion.
methodology. We have given a methodology. We have published paper in economic and political.
We are a country. We have a parliament, and the previous government set up three
committees. Yes.
working groups.
Yes.
Three working groups.
Mr. Das, can I just-
Nothing has been heard about their
Why?
reports.
Why?
Mr. Das,
Because,
can I
because
just
there are
yes,
contradictions
Mr. Dua,
amongst
please,
them,
yes.
which the
Let's
ministry
put
is not
this
able to
way.
sort out.
The-
That's why they have not come out. Otherwise,
Otherwise, estimate
Yes.
of GFI, Global Financially Integrated US, that is the $440 billion.
462 billion.
Well, all right, 460. You may be more precise.
For up to 2008.
Yeah,
Not,
yeah. The CBI, I would call it that's an estimate. It's not a committee.
That's
but-
based on GFI.
Yeah, yeah. So they talked about $500 billion.
Up to 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm saying I'm not going to precise for $500 billion. Fact of the matter is it's a huge amount of money. Let's concede that fact.
Yes.
It may have come down ever since you moderated your taxes, but still it's our taxes, 33%, service tax and others, does make it for a 40-odd% tax rate.
Yes.
And when I say the higher the tax rate, more black money generated, I'm giving empirical evidence. Where is the highest amount of black money estimated in the world? Still in China. And China freed up, all that currency stabilization and rate of growth, returns, etc., have been very high in China.
Mr. Dua, counter example would be Sweden.
No,
where
I was
the
just
tax rate
coming-
was
I was
85%,
just
but
coming-
black
Mr.
income
Vikas
generation is
Singh
only
is-
1%.
I was just making a point.
Yeah.
Second,
So they're
it's
counterexamples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Second example is Russia. Third is probably US. Fourth, India. Fifth, Malaysia. Those kind of things.
No, but US has very small black
Yeah,
income generation, only 5%.
The point being made, amount of income. I'm talking amount.
Total, but
Yes,
percentage of
yeah.
GDP is only 5%,
So the
very
question
small.
is, it's a fairly high amount where either the tax collection machinery is not honest, China, India, Malaysia, those kind of things, or the rates are high, there is a higher generation. The point being made is the government certainly has brought about a legislation. The legislation is how do you impose imposition, the name of the tax, the law is black money, income and assets, and imposition of tax 2015. That how do we impose, and that is where they made these classifications. First 90 days amnesty scheme, lower tax rate by December and another, beyond that you will have a punishment, etc. I think the law certainly needs to be now revisited in the light of what the experience we've gained in the first 90 days. Loopholes tightened. If a few things have to be added, as the panelists have said, those need to be looked at. But
tackle
the
it here.
fact of the matter is we have been able to collect very little, and on the 15th of August, the Prime Minister has said from the Red Fort that $1 billion have been collected. And the scheme ends on 30th September, and we still find it is just $600 million, not even $1 billion. So the fact is, there is A lot more was expected.
That's-
There is a degree
yes,
of
that was
disappointment.
desired, yes.
There is a degree
If I
of
could-
disappointment.
If I could, yes, if I could bring in Mr. Vikas Singh, who also is, of course, expressing his disappointment with the amount that has been generated so far. Mr. Singh, also one thing that we're talking about, apart from the loopholes in the Act itself, you know, also the check on the flow of black money. Anything on that front that is happening?
Well, you know, if you ask me, this black money that we are talking of, or rather the black money that the country should be really concerned of, is mainly the kickback money, you know, which the politicians and the bureaucrats take as kickback and ask these person to park it in foreign destinations and to use it later. Or the black money that we should be really concerned with is the organized crime black money. You know, people indulging in fake currency or people indulging in betting and those syndicates where there is a huge organized crime which also takes the money through the hawala route and parks it in foreign banking systems. Now, whatever is there in the foreign banking system is the one only which you can tap. If it is not there in the banking system, you can't even tap it abroad. So if it is supposing kept in another with another hawala operator, say in any of the foreign destinations, then again it is impossible for the government to do anything about it. Now, when you are able to identify that there are certain Indians holding money in the banking system of whether it be the Swiss banking system or the Luxembourg banking system or any other country which allows such kind of money to be parked, then you are basically wanting to get that kind of money back into the country. I am really not concerned with the money, you know, which people generate who are, you know, in order to avoid the high taxation in India and you know, want to show it abroad and accordingly, those are the money which the present legislation which has been brought in is supposed to get back. But the real big money is the kickback money and the organized crime money. For that, you need to have a very specific legislation, and it is only that legislation which can really help in you know, making a dent in getting a part of that money back into this country. And according to me, the political will is completely lacking to bring that money back into this country. As far as the organized crime money is concerned, they can also be identified in the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. But unfortunately, that act also does not have that kind of teeth to take over money which is parked abroad. So that money can be only identified if that money is sought to be brought back into this country. Then only it can be said that it is a money which was, you know, part of organized crime which is sought to be legitimized. But that may not happen in most of the cases, and accordingly the Prevention of Money Laundering Act also cannot help in bringing back that money. So the real problem needs to be addressed by bringing in a law.
Yes.
And the present law is not dealing with that at all.
Yes.
I mean, the point that I'm making is that this law is not dealing with that kind of black money.
So Mr. Dash,
really
finally,
speaking,
if I could come to you.
unless that political will.
Yes, and we are talking of that political will and coming to you.
Yes,
you know, this is
I think
just speaking about, this is another dampener for the Modi government. This is something on which they were riding on, you know, that success wave at least till about 15 months back. This is another dampener that the Modi government, of course, facing.
Clearly, you know, and much of the problem is lack of information, and it's a misinformed public discourse that has been going on. So, but, you know, the real issue has been with regard to black money, which is proceeds of crime, be it, you know, corruption at high places, or, you know, kickbacks, or election funding, or such other, you know, organized crime, proceeds of organized crime, which is blood money actually. Those kind of things are concerned. For the money stashed abroad, or even for black money domestic, the issue, main issue to my mind has been enforcement. And the enforcement becomes even more difficult when the money is stashed abroad, for the money that is stashed abroad, because you do not have the machinery, you do not have the access to the information. So far, you haven't had. And there the political will is a key thing. A piece of legislation like what Mr. Singh is suggesting is a good one. There is an international clamor for it actually, to have a piece of legislation which would nationalize, so to say, all such proceeds of crime, you know, black money which is stashed abroad, so that you are better equipped legally to handle it. But then the question of enforcement would still remain.
Yes.
If
Very
you do not
quickly,
have the
Professor, yes,
political
very
will and the
quickly.
machinery to enforce, then it's not going
I'm
to
running
be.
short of time.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
quick, just
So,
last
so the
word.
political will, of course, is very important, because whatever legislation you have, if it's not implemented, then it's not worth the paper it's written on, right? But there are many things that could have been done. For instance, the HSBC case shows that large number of private banks and multinational banks are doing hawala. That could have been tackled. Then hawala houses are regularly being monitored by intelligence agencies. They could be tackled very quickly over here in India. You know, the election financing is only 0.1% of GDP. That's not the main cause of black income generation, but that's a time when the triad is formed between the corrupt politician, the corrupt businessman, and the corrupt executive. And that is a question of political will, because all political parties are involved in it. So unless that is tackled, nothing else would change.
All right. I see you're nodding, so I'm going to take it that
Yeah,
he has
I
voiced
totally,
your
I would
concerns. Yes.
just reiterate
Yes.
the need for political funding of elections to be revisited, because it might be 0.1%, but around that so much gets built.
All right.
That if we handle one issue at a time, even, you would see there is a cumulative effect of it in the generation of black money, both domestic and what gets stashed abroad.
All right. We leave it there for now. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on this big picture. We'll be back again with another topic tomorrow. Thanks so much for joining us for the moment, though.